Hello and welcome to the finals of the Aichi Japan Championships out here in OP11, kind of the finale of OP11 before OP12 releases later this week. My name is Jake, you can also call me Atrocious. I'm going to be doing unique English commentary over this match from the official live stream. If you want to watch the official live stream for yourself, because I'm not affiliated with them or anything, I'm just getting commentary practice, you know, and stuff like that, and learning some of these decks, especially in OP11, since we know the matchup to OP11 decks that we'll soon be getting in a couple weeks out here in the West. Link to this will be in the description below, and if you want to watch the entire tournament with my commentary, I have a playlist of this entire tournament that you can go check out on my channel, as well as commentary playlists for every tournament that I've done of these Japan Championships, kind of giving you like English translation unofficially. So Blue Yellow Nami is stealing the scene in this tournament, right? Having two different leader effects that it can utilize both on its offensive side and defensive side really gives it a lot of flexibility in refilling the hand off that draw, but also defensively combating into making itself a 7,000 power leader against a 6,000 power Luffy leader. The Luffy, as what has been dubbed pretty much as the strongest deck in the OP11 format, has that leader effect of just being able to look at that top 5 if you're at a high enough dawn to grab a Straw Hat Crew type card and then have the flexibility of reordering your top 5 or even bottom 5. You gotta imagine that Blue Yellow Nami heading into this tournament was mindful of this specific matchup, and although there weren't very many blue purple Luffys inside this top 16 bracket, I believe only 2 of them, it's still an incredibly dangerous deck that anybody entering into a tournament like this has to think about. The name of the game for Blue Purple Luffy: ramp up to 8 as fast as possible and then start slamming down your big bodies with your leader effect. We do have deck lists for both players that will be showing at the end of this match, so don't go anywhere. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. In these tournaments, they take a lot out of me, actually. I know the first round, I stayed up until like 5 a.m. getting that video done and out to you all, and I have not slept enough since then getting all of these out to you. So your support is greatly appreciated, and I thank you for everyone that's talked to me on Discord, Twitter, YouTube comments, stuff like that. But let's get into what you're probably here for, the game. And the Nami's hand that we got right here doesn't look like to be a bad hand, right? You do have that 2-cost Hiyori to be able to get your leader effect off early, as well as important cards like the 4-cost Cavendish to be able to cycle through life. You've got the 2-cost Nojiko to be able to bounce back a character, and also the Kiku Nojo in case you're able to heal later. The Luffy, though, does not have a great hand to start. No ramping in this hand, but has a couple different Gum Gum Giants, 2 Sanjis, and a 9-drop Linlin. So I think advantage right now is definitely towards the Nami at this point, especially because Blue Purple Luffy, even though it's on that even curve, does not have any ability to go ramp. The Nami, playing so many different like 4 costs and things like that, is going to be a little bit slower in its beginning because of being on the odd curve, right? It's not like if you're on the even curve, you go 2 Dawn Hiyori, 4 Dawn Cavendish. You kind of have to wait a little bit longer, but with your leader effect, right, forcing you to have 1 Dawn attached to be able to use it, maybe being on the odd curve is actually not that bad, right? But let's get into it. It's going to be the Nami first, just a Dawn and pass, and we move on to the Luffy. The Luffy finds the Bon Clay, so there we go. That's already all that we need off of that top deck. We're feeling much better about our hand. And now the Nami on the 3-drop turn will probably just go ahead, swing 6, and then use Hiyori to draw. It's interesting with the sequencing. One might be curious on if you play Hiyori first, right, get that draw, and then use swinging 6. I would imagine that at this point in the game, when your opposing leader is going to be attacking, you're always going to want to have that 1 Dawn anyway, so I don't think it's bad per se. But with this counter right here, I like this counter. Forces the Nami player to have the Hiyori in order to get that leader effect off, and so there we go. We see the Hiyori effect, and the Nami gets to draw on the turn. What did we put in that life, actually? I'm not 100% sure because we had a Kiku Nojo already in hand, but there's a good chance that we might see it right here. We did get a Satori off life, so that's a nice 2k in the hand right now. So the Luffy, after getting the Usohachi, definitely probably going to be swinging with lead and then playing the 4-drop Bon Clay onto the field. But I think is thinking about right now if they want to go ahead and swing 6 or 7, right? Because the Bon Clay gets to ramp a Dawn. So they do the 6, and looks like it was the second Kikunojo. Okay, so a Kikunojo has hit the field. This is going to be really nice, and the Bon Clay comes down, ramps a Dawn, 1 Dawn up as well at the end of this turn. And this is a perfect position for the Nojiko. That's why a lot of these lists are running the Nojiko. For 2 cost, you get to bounce back an opponent's 5 cost or less. That way the Bon Clay can't swing. So here we go. We're starting out with a bare 6,000 power with this Kikunojo. Just going to try to run the hand down a little bit on this blue-purple Luffy. So one of the things that you got to think about is how much Dawn they're going to be attaching to the Nami. You're probably taking one of these swings in this turn. So just going to be taking this first one. It is going to be a potential trigger, but looks like just putting it in hand. It's a 2-drop Toning Chopper. And since they took the life, Nami, having 7 cards in hand, will go ahead and draw 1. But it's a Cavendish, so 3 Cavendish in hand. So many bricks at this point, and is thinking about just playing the 5-drop Nami. The 5-drop Nami is going to be nice. You're going to be able to get rid of some of these brick cards in your hand that you don't need. Although they synergize well with your leader effect, you don't need so many of them, and that's exactly what happens. That Nami, since the blue-yellow Nami is multicolored, that blocker is going to allow her to draw 3 cards and then put 2 on the top or bottom of the deck, just bottom decking 2 Cavendishes. Does find a Red Rock and a Trafalgar Law off of that draw, so not too bad on those draws, right? Even though they're also bricks, the 1-cost body is very annoying for your opponent to deal with, and then the Red Rock could find you a lot of value later in this game. So on to 7 Dawn at this point. Can't use leader effect yet, but finds a Sanji. So slowly getting things set up at this point. Just has a leader swing and a Bon Clay to think about. But one of the things that you got to be wary of with this Nami is as soon as you swing 6,000 power at lead with the either leader or the Bon Clay, it's going to be a leader effect to get to 7. But I think Bon Clay is actually going to be swinging 8 on this. It looks like they want to attach 2 Dawn and swing 8. Gonna force a card out of hand and a 2k to get out if that's exactly where they're going. The Kikunojo, though, if they go ahead and swing at the Kikunojo, since Luffy starts out the game at 3 life, Kikunojo's on KO effect is always going to be active. So do you want to control the board a little bit, maybe give them a life, or do you want to just go pressure at face, swing constantly? And it looks like might be going to try to use the leader effect here. Just maybe getting clarification. Maybe you have to verbalize exactly what you're copying, even if both players assume, okay, yeah, it's 6,000 right here. So 8,000 power swing coming in is going to be a 2k, just double Satori. Says, you know what? I want to hold off on this leader effect. I have a pretty good feeling that your leader is going to swing. And so maybe either you're going to take this life or you're going to use the leader effect to maybe put away the Cavendish like they were alluding to earlier. It's either curious. You either want to probably get rid of the Cavendish or the Kikunojo, but goes ahead and swings another 8,000 power at lead, potentially. The double 8,000 power lead makes it awkward for the leader effect, and so there's a nice take. Still no 8-drop Kid, though, and with the 2 Dawn, goes ahead and plays a little Toning Chopper blocker. So I like this little blocker right here. Even if you don't get the ramp of the Dawn, it's the same instance of every single other deck that wants to play like 1, 2 chum type blockers, to where it's really annoying to get rid of a lot of times, right? And this is going to help protect Bon Clay a little bit as well. Try to focus everything there. But the Hiyori's coming in and swinging 1,000 power at the Bon Clay. Since the Toning Chopper is a 0 power character, it's not a free block by any means. And so the Hiyori coming in, throwing hands, and taking that knockout on the Bon Clay is going to allow for both of these swings now of the Kikunojo and the Nami to go at face. And so there's that 6,000 power swing coming in at the Luffy. And Luffy is going to go ahead and take that life. Is a potential trigger, could be something like God Thread, but it's a Gear 2, and so Gear 2 is going to be a good event later down the line, but with the draw-off leader effect, finds that 8-cost kid, and so the 8-cost kid is super helpful a lot in these situations, but it'll be interesting to know if off of this 6,000 power swing right here with the Nami and the leader Nami, if the blue-purple Luffy decides to take this last life. Is just going to go ahead and 2k out of this right now. One thing that I think you could do maybe is play down like the Cavendish at this point. The Cavendish would be a nice body to continuously help draw, even if they respond with a Linlin. So is going to go ahead, swing 6,000 power, just matching and try to just eat one card at a time, right? You see a lot of times that these decks battling against blue-purple Luffy will just try to match the value of the leader with these characters just to try to eat one card here, eat one card there, everywhere. It's been a good strategy for a lot of them, and so uses the Gear 2 event to get out of that one, plays the Cavendish and says pass, I believe. Just one Dawn up, no one-drop blocker. You do have a one-drop blocker with that Trafalgar Law, so I'm curious of why they didn't do that. Maybe trying to feint the Gum Gum Red Hawk event, right? That one-cost counter event that we know is in this deck. Word has probably got around, you know, once you get to these championship tables, these top tables, kind of word gets around about what you're playing, what some of the techs are in your deck, things like that. So the opponent, this blue-purple Luffy, probably has a really good idea that they play a one of Gum Gum Red Hawk because we've seen it in previous rounds. Starting out with a 6,000 power swing is just going to be a 1k teach right there. I do like the teach pitch. It's not really needed at this point in the matchup. You're not playing on curve as much. So after grabbing what I believe was the Usohachi off leader effect, or actually, no, they didn't use leader effect. They were at 7 Dawn. It's just thinking about playing a hard 9 Linlin. The Linlin is going to be nice to be able to put this Cavendish in life and not have it be influential in the game, as well as adding life that can eventually be burned from something like the 8-cost kid, something that's been very impactful within this tournament and this deck. So gaining that life, putting the Cavendish on the top or bottom. I think maybe they're deciding of whether or not they want to put it at the top or bottom. I would say personally, you could probably put this at the bottom, right? If you put it at the bottom, you guarantee that the end of the game, it's going to be a brick, right? When you're trying to go for lethal, but they decide to put it on the top. And so now going into the Nami's turn, you got to imagine that that 8-cost kid is probably going to come down, right? You only see the one Linlin, and you feel pretty good probably of being able to counter out of that Linlin. You've got a little bit of, actually you don't have a lot of counter in hand. Looking at the hand, just 2 1k Nojikos. So it could be interesting on how you get out of that kid. But first we have to fulfill this 6,000 power swing from the Kikunojo. Again, just a sticky body that's been on the field. No Dawn up, so no chance of Gum Gum Giant. Could potentially draw a card off of this leader effect. Actually can't draw a card because you have 8 in hand. So is going to go ahead, grab that Sanji. I almost would have loved playing down one of these 8 costs in your hand, whether that's the kid or the Luffy, just so then when you start swinging these numbers right on these 6,000 powers, you could potentially draw one off of the life. The Luffy does have Rush and has an 8,000 power Rush that also gives Arrested Dawn to Nami more than likely, right? You might be able to get a draw off of then in that turn, but I feel like you want to do it earlier rather than later, so then you have more in your hand to work with and knowledge of what you're going to do. I don't know, it's really curious. I'd be interested if in the comments you guys let me know if it's better when you're at 8 cards to play something down first and then go for the leader effect draw going at life, or if in this sequence it's better. I don't really know. I mean, I haven't played this matchup yet. We don't have OP11 cards at this point, but for the time being, just going to go ahead now and swing 8,000 power after playing down that Luffy. Is going to pitch the Kikunojo, push that chopper back in hand and put a Dawn on the Nami. and is going to be an 8,000 power swing at lead. Now that you have 6 cards in hand, you're going to be able to grab one off of this life. It is going to be taking another 9-drop Linlin, and so drawing that next card, it is going to be another 8-drop Kid. So swinging this 6 is probably going to play this 1-drop Trafalgar Law at the end of turn, be a pesky little menace. And so now pitching away that Tony Chopper essentially is almost the same thing, right? You got to use that Chopper somewhat as block and finishes off the turn with that Law. And so now using leader effect on this Luffy, finds a couple cards. Thunder Bagua, not really a lot of great targets for a 9-cost Sanji. Right now that we're going to be in full 10 Dawn turns and utilizing leader effect to be able to stack our deck, it's going to be curious on if you value like a 9-cost Sanji play more or a 9-drop Linlin, right? 9-drop Linlin would allow you to heal life and remove something pesky on the board that you don't want to see. But with Nami having the burn factors, how much do you actually value that 9-drop Linlin? It's really just like a card minus in hand, right? And so is going to be taking this Nami, I think, really thinking about now whether or not they want to top or bottom these cards in the deck. I don't know if a lot of these cards are very valuable, right? You have 2 Gum Gum Giants, you already have a Sanji in hand. Thunder Bagua is a really nice card and maybe one that you want to think about, right? Especially off the top in terms of countering, but it's not an easy decision, that's for sure, especially if you do some sort of Gum Gum Giant, right? A lot of these cards are just going to be bricks. You're not going to be drawing into anything of value on all of these pokes. So does actually leave it on top. Very interesting. And so now we're going to be drawing in for turn. Going to be a Gravity Blade. Maybe thinking about Gravity Blading this turn, right? Gravity Blade to get rid of the Nami and the Kiku Nojo would get rid of a lot of these pokes. You'd really only have to worry about the big 8-cost Luffy, but starts out swinging 6 and is a 1k Nojiko counter, and now the 9 is going to force the block where the Gravity Blade now goes and bottom decks those 2 characters right there. And so now with 3 Dawn left, probably just leaving it up, yeah, and just saying, okay, go for it now. Definitely a really curious spot. Finds the 7-drop Odin on the draw for turn. That's a card that we've constantly seen within this deck, but we haven't seen have any action yet. Maybe this is the turn that you want to play down the Odin, right? Put a body on the field. You already saw Gravity Blade, right? The Linlin only being able to remove 6 costs or less means that the Odin could be there and swing multiple times in the coming turn. Definitely a really interesting position right now, but as you don't really have counter in your hand, you're going to be taking life like crazy at this next turn. So where do you go? You don't need to play 8-drop Useless Captain Kid because there's no life to burn, right? So it feels really weird. So starting out with a 6,000 power swing, just a little poke, try to get a 1k out of hand, and it's going to be that Nami. And so one thing in order to use the Luffy's regaining Dawn effect is it is going to have to be playing the character down first, right? Playing the Odin down. Are they thinking about Red Rock? They might be thinking about red rocking the Linlin instead of playing down the Odin. If you don't know the Odin, because it is Starter Deck 22, a starter deck out in the West that's coming out in August, Odin has the ability to reactivate itself, right? Bring it back up as active after an attack. And if you try to remove it from play by an effect, you can trash 2 cards from your hand instead. So Odin, very, very good, especially in the late game as an 8,000 power body. The downside is when you reactive it, it is costing you 3 Dawn. So even though in a lot of situations it is very nice to be able to reactive an 8,000 power character for only 3 Dawn, that would kind of put this Nami in a position to where it doesn't have anything else to play on the turn. So you're kind of just really going for game. You can spread out the Dawn to be able to survive, right? Between the Luffy, if it lives, the Nami, the Odin, but only 1k counter in hand right now. Technically, you have a 2k in hand because your leader effect allows you to become a 7k, but the downside is that leader effect only works on you. It doesn't work on keeping your Luffy alive, which I think is kind of the big issue at this point for this Nami. And so is going to go ahead and play that Odin down. That Odin is going to hit the field right here. 2 Dawn left. to probably put on this Luffy, and it'll be curious to see if he goes face or if he goes at the Lin. I would imagine maybe that he's going to go at face, because with the Dawn up, you got to imagine that the Gum Gum Giant is in the hand, and so putting that Dawn right there, pitching one of the kids and putting the Hiyori back. The Hiyori is nice because you actually get another 2K. I forgot about that part of the Luffy being able to put a character back into the hand, and so on this swing right here is going to be a Gum Gum Giant. The Gum Gum Giant is going to get them to 10,000 power, so is going to have to give up another card in order to get out of this, that being the 2K Sanji. Well, actually, you could just Gum Gum Giant again, but the 2K Sanji right here. And it could be really interesting on this pressure in the coming turn, right? Just leave a lot of Dawn up for like Thunder Bagwas and Gum Gum Giants, right? To be able to just survive with whatever they're going to put down. There is a drop Katakuri in this top, and also a Sanji. Might be really interesting to see one of those things where the 9-drop Sanji comes in and the 8-drop Katakuri as well. You still have one Dawn to work with for like a Gum Gum Giant, but maybe that's not a great situation because you don't have any counter in hand. And even off the Gum Gum Giant, you can only maximum find 2K, 1K off of it with a blocker, and your opponent has 4 swings, right? With 2 from Odin, 1 from Luffy, 1 from Nami. So is it even smart to go in the Sanji? Is it better to just be purely defensive, right? Play the slow game for a little bit. So looks like it's going to be an Usohachi coming into hand. The Usohachi going to be very nice as a 2K, right? Kind of build up the counter. Maybe thinking about just bottom decking this stack at this point. The bottom decking could be nice just to try to filter in more counter cards right in your hand. Maybe thinking about, what are they thinking about right now? So decides to keep it on top, is going to be drawing into all this. And so now we go into the next turn, is going to be 5-drop Nami off the top that they got, swinging 6 at lead. Forgot for a moment that it was a 6,000 power leader, but is going to be using that leader effect to pitch the kid from hand. Did not need that brick, just needs the counter to keep this Luffy potentially alive. And so looks like just going to be attaching a ton of Dawn and swinging probably at this Luffy. Going to be good to get that KO, but only just attaches 1, swings 10 at it, and can be a 2K, 1K to get out of it, or maybe is going at lead right now. But either way, going to be a 2K, 1K out, and now the 5-drop Nami comes in, is going to be drawing 3, putting 2 to the top or bottom, and plenty up with the counter events, right? The 2 Gum Gum Giants, the Gear 2, the Thunder Bagua. Is going to be 5 active Dawn's worth for the 4 left. And so having to pitch the Nojiko while now this Nami is on the field definitely felt really bad, but you're still in an interesting spot because you have stuff like the Odin, right, that can swing multiple times. You have the Luffy. You have the ability to play Red Rock and also use Odin in the turn. You can use the Red Rock to get rid of the Lin. You can use it to get rid of the Nami, whichever way. I think probably the Lin is your best bet, right? Just use the Red Rock to get rid of that. They haven't been playing Sanji at this point, putting stuff towards the bottom. You gotta imagine that if they had a Sanji and they wanted to play it and were prioritizing it in hand, they probably would have done it already. They do have that 1 cost event, the Gum Gum Red Hawk in hand that they found off the draw. Could be nice at this point. The problem right now is if you use like the Odin restand, Gum Gum Red Hawk, that's 9 Dawn right there. And since there's no 4 cost or lower character on the field for you to bounce back off the Luffy swing, you don't have a Dawn for either your leader effect or the 1 cost counter event, but decides to attach 4 and swing 9 at lead. Is just going to really force the Gum Gum Giant right here. Is going to go ahead, use that effect to draw in 2 cards after having to pitch 1 from hand. We'll see if they pitch the Lin. Definitely interesting. This blue-purple Luffy doesn't have any cards. to play in the next turn if this Linlin goes away. Finds a Gear 2, which is a nice counter event, and a Frankie, but the Red Rock going to go in and bottom deck this Linlin. No big bodies on the field before this incoming leader effect. If this goes through and the play that they're going to make, I do like the Red Rock play. I don't know if I fully agree with the Nami play, but I think I'm okay with this in the long run. Getting rid of that Linlin, getting it off the field. Now you're going to be able to just go ahead and swing these two bodies right here. Is going to go ahead. Oh, you don't have to bounce anything back. My apologies on that. And get arrested Dawn on the Luffy. Does put a red hawk right there. Is going to be Thunder Bagua. Thunder Bagua is going to come in and ramp a Dawn. And with the Odin swing, and decides to pass not swing with the Odin. Maybe just says like, okay, I don't want to swing with the Odin yet because the Odin is kind of like my win condition, right? With the multiple swings. I'm okay with losing the Luffy, but I'm not okay with losing the Odin, right? I know that I'm not going to be able to KO you in this upcoming turn, so try to keep Odin alive for the next turn. Definitely an interesting strategy by this player here. And now we'll see where the Luffy decides to go. Looking like they're prioritizing the 5-drop Nami. Played one earlier, could play one again, right? Just get really bulky on this defensive side. There's another Thunder Bagua in there. Lots of counter going on right now. Zoro Juro could be something that they grab as a nice little 1K. And so ends up picking that Zoro Juro. Puts the rest on the top potentially in that respected order. And now we go into another full 10 Dawn turn. Finds the Nami right off of the draw that they put there. And goes ahead, swings 9 at the Luffy. Takes that knockout and plays the Nami. The Nami is going to go ahead, draw 3, bottom deck, or leave 2 on the top. And I think kind of in this position of playing the Nami really says, okay, I'm going to force you to swing with the Odin, right? I've got these blockers on field. I'm not afraid of dying, and you just don't have any defense. Just starving out the Nami in their hand to not really have any defense whatsoever. Just pick off these bodies one by one. And now we are in overtime, so it looks like the blue-purple Luffy is going to be turn 0 on this turn. I mean, you probably have a decent chance to win this game even within turns, right? Just the Nami not really having too much. They're forced at this point to play the 8-drop kid, I think, in this next turn. And if they play 8-drop kid, you can't swing with Odin. So your only choice is to just attach 2 on the Nami, swing 7,000 power at lead and try to force a 2K or some sort of counter event, I think, and then just hold up Odin again. It doesn't feel like a good strategy. I feel like blue-purple Luffy, especially when they get off their leader effect, really just stabilizes at this point. And so now we've got the draw for turn on the Nami. Not sure what the draw is on this. Oh, what is that card? No, you just moved it off screen. It is going to be a Red Rock. So Red Rock, I don't know if I feel good with playing another Red Rock at this point, but is going to attach to swing 7,000 power at lead. Maybe the first play that I was mentioning. Going to be a 2K for a Nosuke, and the Eustace Captain Kid comes in. The Kid is going to be able to get this draw 1, trash 1 effect and finds the 3rd Red Rock. That is all 3 of their Red Rocks in the game now, and leaves the Odin up like I was mentioning earlier. And so the thing about this is this just really gives the blue-purple Luffy time, right? And the longer that the game goes on, especially in a condition like this, blue-purple Luffy just gets so much stronger. And so now using another leader effect, has a couple 8-drop Kanakuris in there, has another Nami, and maybe just playing down all of these Namis, just building up the board, is going to have to go and see what they drew for turn. Again, still plenty of Gum Gum Giants. This Luffy's not really afraid of dying at any point so far. Just going to swing 6,000 power, gets that Cavendish, swings the 6 on this Nami, and now a Kikunojo comes down on the field. Now 7,000 power with the Nami is going to go ahead, take that life, and the Hiyori comes in. The Linlin pops onto the field to gain a life, already revealing the 8-cost kid, right, can't burn that life. And I think is basically just conceding at this point, says, you know what, with that life, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. Or actually, wait, was that turn 3? I might be misunderstanding. It did definitely go to time, put him down to 0, and with this life gain, technically, if the game ended right here after this turn, why didn't Nami use leader effect one time? Because they could have been tied 1-1. I'm honestly a little bit confused. If anybody in the comments can, maybe I just don't understand the actual ruling, just turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. But Nami could have saved one of their life by using leader effect on this one, right? They were at 3 with the Cavendish. They took all 3 of these swings. I feel like this one, like you could have countered out of one of these swings. Well, even if the final swing was 7, you get out of one of the swings. Then if you take the life from this one, you're still at 1. Yeah, I think I'm not going to be able to give like a well-versed explanation. So the win condition really for this person was just getting the Nami to 0. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't like use leader effect on one of the Nami blockers swings. That's so weird. Anyways, let's look at these deck lists. So here's the Nami's deck list. Definitely a really cool deck from this event, and a lot of interesting changes that I think a lot of people were thinking at the start when Nami was first released. Running a mix of 1-drop blockers on the Law and Vista. Saw a little bit of action in this game, but are very, very nice. Just really annoying for your opponent to get rid of. You have a couple removal type cards in Gum Gum Red Hawk, the Nojiko as we saw, Zeus as well, to be able to get rid of selective bodies on the board, as well as the Gum Gum Fire Fist Pistol Red Hawk, right, being able to KO another 5-cost. You've got a really interesting mid game with Kiku Nojo, right, being able to place it in the life off of the Hiyori to basically cheat it out, as well as Cavendish being able to draw and filter your hand, really sets you up in sorts of the end game of the Odin, right, a card that we saw kind of in action, but didn't swing in action through multiple turns, which I thought was very interesting. We have the Luffy, right? A great secret rare that came out in OP11, and Eustace Captain Kidd, kind of the premier big body in this deck. I feel like just being able to burn life and then have that filter in the end game. You've got a couple other really good cards within this list, including the Nami, as we saw a little bit. The Nami, great for just filtering out the hand, just like that blue-purple Luffy did, as well as Marshall D. Teach. Marshall D. Teach is a great card within this deck, simply because as you're playing on curve, right, tapping out all your Dawn, Teach allows you, if it's on the field and has survived, to be able to still get 1 Dawn on your leader in order to use leader effect. We saw it a little bit in one of the previous rounds, not necessarily this one, but has the ability to provide so much good value. And then Charlotte Pudding. Charlotte Pudding is another really good card within this deck, just simply because it's a great blue card, and with plenty of raw draw right off of the Cavendish, off of the Hiyori, leader effect, not having specific searchers like a lot of other decks, you can oftentimes just find this pudding and have it ready for when you need it. Blue-purple Luffy, not necessarily too different from what we usually see, I think, a lot of times within this deck, really leaning in more on the Tony Chopper as of late. The Tony Chopper, though, can't be found off of leader effect because you can only find Straw Hats, the Tony Chopper being an animal foxy pirate, but being able to, on your leader effect, order that top 5 or 4 to whatever you like and be able to draw the chopper for turn is almost like a pseudo search effect for any card within your deck. Although a lot of blue-purple Luffys moved off of the 8-cost Katakuri, this player brought it back within this deck, just saying, you know what, especially with the Lin-Lins and just a lot of pesky stuff in this format, having a big 8,000 power blocker is just so much value within this deck. Also choosing, instead of the 8-cost Luffy that we saw the Nami playing the 9-cost Rush Luffy, right, being able to draw a card, replace itself within the deck. The idea of this deck, ramp in the beginning and set up your long game with the leader effect, has plenty of ramp options that are very good in Zoro Juro, the Mr. 2 Bon Clay, Gear 2, a great counter event card, but also an interesting ramp card, and also potentially Thunder Bagua. This list feels a little bit more of when Blue Purple Luffy first came out in Japan, right? Because a lot of people lately have been playing God Thread. A lot of people lately have been playing It's to Die For event cards in order to ramp. But this Blue Purple Luffy player going a little bit different in its build, especially with the 3 Gravity Blade Raging Tigers, and maybe one of the reasons why we didn't see as much ramp in the beginning, right? Only in the beginning really having the Bon Clay. It was definitely an interesting match, and again, if I'm wrong in the time rules in overtime because, well, I don't play in Japan, please let me know in the comments down below, because I don't really know how that game ended in a sense, and especially if it ended as in like the life total. I genuinely believe the Nami had a way to stay at 1 life, so then the Lin coming down ties them at life, and then if that was the last turn of the game, I'm not 100% sure, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. And again, the rest of the tournament is in that playlist, and I appreciate everyone for watching. Thank you. Thank you again. We'll see you in the next one. We've got plenty of stuff coming in, along with OP12, the new starter decks coming out, OP11 out in the West. There's so much to talk about in the One Piece trading card game, and so many great events coming soon. Hope to see you in those videos.